Hello, everyone. Happy non-farm payrolls Friday. How is everyone doing? I'm so glad you've tuned in. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the channel and helping out. Good morning, Patrick. Happy Friday to you, and everybody have a happy weekend. Even though it's wintertime, and I'm not a fan of winter, it's surprisingly warm here this morning. I went to take the dogs out, at 5 a.m. and it was upper 50s, which is unusually warm. And we're going to be like 76 today. So I'm not feeling the winter, but that's the reason I moved here because I do not miss the winter. But anybody who loves the winter, this is your season coming up. And if you don't love the winter and you're stuck in the cold, I sympathize with you. Good morning, McRangers. Good morning, y'all. McRangers with the Texas vibe. Still live in Texas. Multiple places in Texas. Good morning, Sterling. Good morning, Jacob. Sterling's going to be putting in the earnings first, but before we get to the earnings, I got to say good morning to Jake, the snake, and good morning, Martinez. Yes, Lululemon was a beat, also triggering a inverse head and shoulders. Also triggering an inverse head and shoulders. Maybe if I remember, we'll take a look at that. Thanks for also tweeting stuff out. By the way, if you're seeing activity on the Path Trading Partners, that's thanks to Sterling. So, Fizz was a miss. I guess that was I guess that fizzled out. Oh boy, it's going to be a long day here. DocuSign was a beat. Path, not Path Trading Partners, but just Path. Beat. So let's get to the more important things. We'll get to all the numbers in a second. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Royal Palms. Yeah. Oh no. The apes. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. All you're doing is enabling AMC to keep issuing shares. So, and you guys think it's going to go somewhere. It's not. Let's like Mike. That's a good thing. Good morning, Mark. North Dallas for 38 years from Richard. I lived in Prosper, Richard. Prosper, Texas was the last time I lived in Texas. Was up in Prosper, just down the street from where Deion Sanders had his big ranch. 15 degrees. See, this is why I can't do it. I cannot do it. And my wife's traveling back to Chicago next week. So, she's not looking forward to the cold either, but I can't do 15 degrees. My body does not like it. I had to suffer through the Midwest and cold. Oh boy, I've tried to escape there, and this is hopefully my final escape from there. All right, that's enough about me, because this is about the markets. So, we had non-farm payrolls coming out. Better than expected, 227 versus 200. Good morning, Ted. Prosper is a tiny town, but I really liked Prosper, Texas. Non-farm payrolls are better than expected. Unemployment rate ticking up, but in line with consensus. Average hour, here's where I'm, because the Fed watch, we'll jump to this real quick. Now it's like at 87% that they're going to cut. You have average hourly earnings coming in at 0.4, higher than the consensus. This is very sticky number, which leads to services inflation. This inflation is not going away. And there's the dual mandate, but this is still roughly in line with stuff. And your September and October were revised higher. Now the problem is, if you're losing your job, it's a little harder to get one. But here's the deal: inflation affects everyone. Inflation, even if you're employed, if inflation keeps going, it affects everyone. They just haven't knocked it out of the system, and the markets expect them to cut again. Government payrolls 33K. Manufacturing up from minus 48K last to 22K. What else? Average weekly hours ticking up also. That is ticking up in line with consensus, but higher than previous. So people are working a little bit more. Okay. Participation rate slightly down. We got to hear what Bowman speaks. Remember, we still have the Michigan consumer sentiment, the preliminary numbers for December, and the inflation expectations. Then we got Goolsby, Hammock, and Daly speaking to round out the Friday. Now, even though we are 12 days from this, I want to really also see how the markets rallied off that number and the dollar dropped a little and the yields dropped a little. Keep a close eye on how it reacts after really the market opens, because this number, I don't know, unless I think the Fed's totally writing off everything the Fed's going to do what the Fed's going to do, but this doesn't give them an easy excuse to keep cutting, especially with stuff like uh, the hourly earnings. And remember, next Wednesday, so 1 week before the Fed announcement, you have the CPI numbers. Okay, and the CPI, I mean, we could still, the previous number for core inflation year over year is 3.3. That's nowhere near 2. Even the headline 2.6. Now consensus for that is going to take up to 2.7. We'll talk more about that next week, but I don't think everything's out of the woods just yet. Now, you got Tesla still marching higher. Tesla hit the magnet price we've been talking about for a while, the 87.5 harmonic at 375, and then backed off a little yesterday. What else? Sort of mixed in the other mega caps. If we look at the groups, let me just refresh it real quick. Consumer cyclical leading the charge higher, but everything positive today going into Friday. 87% for the cut. Just dropping barely in the neutral mode from greed mode. Key things, though, you got put call option where we are at extreme greed. There's no fear in this market besides, I mean, this has fear, but this breadth has not been good. And a lot of the stock price, these are new 52-week highs versus lows. This is not holding up with the market just rip roaring higher. But the market can keep going. Remember, we don't have any major sell patterns yet. 38.81. We have potential major sell patterns. And again, thank you, Sterling, for putting in the numbers. But that wraps up earnings. So, who else is here? Good morning, Heinrich. It's 48 in Caddy, Texas. Not liking this cold. That's not that cold. I mean, we get in the 40s in the morning here. Normally, it was just warmer than normal. I had a girlfriend near Prosper, geographically undesirable. Oh boy. How do I expect a 10-year yield? I actually think the yield could pop again. I think the yield could pop. Right now, nothing has changed. This is very boring from a market perspective, because we still have very key support right now. Going to bump this up. Really, it's about 60.75 is your very key support. Anywhere between 60.65 and 60.75 on a pullback today if this does reverse. Other than that, we have yesterday's high, 61.07. If it takes off through there, your next key price is 61.21 from a harmonic perspective, because we're in all-time high territory. If you want to watch something a little closer, keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on this. Does this? Now this is lopsided, but we are in potential double top territory. Okay? With this. So if we start breaking below the non-farm payrolls release number, and that low is 60.76, then we could get the pullback. Then we could get the bigger pullback. Okay? Then by the bigger pullback, just go off this side right now. By the bigger pullback, I mean, this is not a shocking pullback, but then we could be back to 60.50 over the next couple days. It is against the rotation zone. It would actually take us back to the daily rotation zone. That's possibly the only little minorly bearish setup there is. That is the rule. Do not short a slow market, especially a market that's just grinding higher. That's just grinding higher. Look at this volume. This is not super strong volume. The breadth is not there. I'm telling you, but this is not a market you say, oh, this doesn't make any sense. I'm going to short it. No. No, 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 no. Again, we don't short this market even with Coco's money. So, okay, you wait. There'll be, and everybody, don't try to call a top in this. Could it keep marching higher? Yeah, it can. So go with the trend until the trend ends. And then remember, we'll know after we get a primary pullback, we'll then looking for what? The secondary reaction, especially for all those new people here. Very key support in this is right around this 2135 area in the NASDAQ. If we do, there's a little mini potential before that already came down and reversed. That really watch if the NASDAQ follows through with a close below about 21,400. Pay attention to 4-hour rotation zone on that. Other than that, the next key magnet price is still this 20, just go 21,580 to 21,600. Hey, let's take a look at that. There's a daily double bottom in ZT. I love doubles. You know what? If you want to master trading one thing, why do I have? I don't want that. I want ZT. There you go. What time frame was that on? Was I have that right? What time frame? There was a daily double bottom that you caught. Oh, the daily. Okay, this one. You caught this one. Are we? But you're looking at the which month are you looking at? Which month? Because that's a continuous contract. Which month are you trading? Hopefully you're still trading D's. Because there you go. Closing in on it, have to turn the back adjust on. Oh, thanks. But unless you're just trading the D's contract, it's right here. It's right there. So that's what we have there. The Dow, thank you, Sterling, for Dow's sideways correction. The only thing that puts me in short-term pullback mode is we break below 44,685. Other than that, very strong resistance at just above 45K. If we take out the all-time highs, your next magnet price is 45,334. The Russell, not really a great doubling pattern because of this sloppy price action down here, but on any rally, it's heading into very key resistance at this 24.29 area. Very key support is that back at 23.88. Where is Intel of Mike Arnold back of the truck buys? It's not a back up the truck and buy. There's no. Remember, Intel also knocked out their dividend. There will be a time to buy Intel again. It's just not yet, in my book. VIX trying to break below 13. The DAX, there we go. Next harmonic, 20,431. Boom. The DAX just running like there's no tomorrow. Massively overbought conditions. But if you're watching something on the DAX, pay attention to the 4-hour rotation zone and the support level about 20,375. The yields, let's just look at the yields. The yields dropping. The yields are dropping. I want to see if this reverses, though, at all into the open, but you got the rotation zone being negative, and we still have weekly cycles heading down. We are against a very key support area. If this does break, 4.05 is the next major support area. The notes you see running up to a very key resistance area in the note futures. And let me flip this around. Let me flip this around right now to see. The next key area here is 112.11. Should this hold, I'm watching it into the open because also dollar index, pay attention to this. Dollar index immediately spiked lower, which I was shocked at because and the euro bounced. But now we're getting the buying pressure. So I have on the little reverse harmonics, you see here. So because why do I have those on? Because we have a potential double. We have a potential double that came spiking down, hitting the first harmonic, which does not invalidate the double. That would have to trade through to this 105 area to invalidate the double. But I'm going to be watching this over the next few days. And you might be wondering, well, does this move right here fit in the rules? Well, it does on the 4 hour, and it's still completely valid. It's a completely valid pattern on the 4 hour. So even a 4 hour close next week above 106.40 could trigger. Crude, nada. Natty gas. By the way, natty gas is another interesting one. So closing right at the rotation zone bottom, which again, lower probability because it has not been able to follow through below the rotation zone, so slightly lower probability. But now it's formed a mini double within a double. So I will be paying attention if we close, even on a 4 hour basis, above 3.155, that triggers a mini double, which for many shorts, I'd then be not holding shorts. I'd be watching for the move back up, which does not technically invalidate the double top. Because remember, it'd have to close then above the 62.5 from the original setup because it did not reach the first target. And even if you were doing a more aggressive stop, look at this. The full target is right in front of the 62.5. So could this come up and then roll over again and complete the other double? Yes, theoretically. So I'd be paying attention to anybody who's looking for pullbacks in there. They're still completely valid unless we close above 3.155. So we do have a little mini double there. Gold, there's still nothing going on. Tried to break down a bit, and I'm going to tell you, this is why I hate triangle patterns. Because until it really breaks out of the triangle, look, you can keep redrawing like this. Triangle redraw. All right? So, it's breaking down. Nope, we got to redraw the triangle. That's why triangles are notoriously very difficult to trade, and you don't have a big problem. If you had a major probability favor in triangles, one side or the other, it'd be a different story because you could really get your reward to risk and probabilities lined up. So even if you take a few small losses, it doesn't matter. But probabilities are, like depending on anywhere from 52 to 48 or 51 to 49. They're too even. So, Coco, did you just try to stir up trouble? Boring non-farm payroll. Did you just try to stir up trouble? Here's another one to keep an eye on. Copper, remember, triggering the double also went to the first target. But look at this. This wick did not invalidate it, by the way. This is another double within a double. So if copper switches back down and closes on a 4 hour basis back below 417, could be in pullback mode again after only hitting the first target. But the only thing that invalidates, and that technically, if we're looking at this from a stop perspective, if it went to all three targets and then closed below that third target, it would invalidate the double bottom. Just a couple little markets. Even if you don't trade these, you can learn how patterns within patterns work. So keep an eye on that. The yen really looks like it's running out of steam after testing its support, and that's yen strengthening is running out of steam. Going to be watching now to see if it bounces back up, but there's no solid pattern just yet. The euro, after spiking off that non-farm payrolls, is slightly reversing. Yesterday closing right at the rotation zone, but there's not a great setup there yet. Spiders hitting the next harmonic yesterday. Today, slight gap up, 607. So any rollover play, I'd be watching yesterday's open first, 607.66. So that would still be a little bounce up move, but on a rollover play, I'd be looking at 606.66. There's a lot of sixes in that. And then if we break down, especially going into next week, you still have a gap left behind back to 603.91. The next harmonic area is 611.41. Again, there's no major topping pattern yet. The NASDAQ taking out the harmonics, pausing right here at the harmonics. So now we're going to have to look, 523.54. Let's see today if this gets a pausing bar for the next little push higher. If we have to go down to the 4 hour to try to come up with something, you're looking at roughly, and this is not a strong harmonic because we don't have a pausing bar yet, but if I had to use something, I'd be using around 527.75. What else do we have? What else? Oh, Lulu. Here is your little, on the weekly it's weak shoulders, but you can see horizontal neckline closing. It looks like it's going to close above it on the weekly basis, so we could see Lulu still run higher for a bit. It's another one I'm keeping an eye on. You can see the shoulders a little better formed on the daily, and it did trigger before earnings. All right, so that's where your first target on this, by the way, is 388. It's set to gap up to 377. So there we have Lulu. What else? We had somebody mention Intel. Remember, they canceled the dividend. Okay, they canceled the dividend, and there's not a strong now where you could still liquidate the company, I think, for more than this. So it's technically going to get beat up, but there's not a fantastic pattern yet on a longer term basis. You had the little mini double, which played out. Now it's pulled back. I'm going to be watching for a bigger basing pattern to form. It's just not yet. What else do we have? XLRE. What'd you have? Where'd that go? Where'd XL? Daily double top and X daily double top. Where? Oh, this one would have to trigger on a weekly basis for me, by the way. But you do have a weekly up at prior resistance. So that is very key. If you're in anything with real estate, pay attention to that 42.19 level on a weekly. A daily close can front run it, but it needs to follow through with a weekly close. 42.19. And it'd be out of the way of the weekly rotation zone. So that could be a really nice setup coming down the pike. Does anybody say that anymore? Coming down the pike. Fridays are the worst. I do. That's something I agree with you with, Coco. That's where I always caution people: do not lose money on a Friday. Don't force anything on a Friday. From all my results, from my intraday results, it's the worst day of the trading week for me personally. All right. Did that form a little 5-minute confirmed double? It did. That's interesting. So I'll be watching this low going into the open. because we could retrace then a lot of this non-farm payroll run up. I'm still shocked that that was viewed as dovish. SLV now has a triggered daily double bottom. Is it triggered? Is that really triggered? Oh yeah, it is. 28.55. 28.56. It is officially triggered. So silver has officially triggered a double bottom in the SLV contract. Look at that. Look at the final target with the 50% harmonic. So that'll be an interesting one. All right. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in. And again, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend in December. Enjoy the holiday season, whatever you may be celebrating or not celebrating. And I shall talk to everyone on Monday. Again, thanks, Sterling, for tweeting stuff out or Xing stuff out. I don't know what you call it anymore. And thanks for any retweets I do. If you're not following me on X, it's at MG Arnold. So I shall talk to everyone later. Bye for now.